Hello, in this video I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know to schedule and conduct your virtual parent-teacher conferences. So first things first, parents will be able to sign up for virtual parent-teacher conferences on the district website, and the platform for the conferences will be Google Meet. So phase one of virtual parent-teacher conferences. That'll take place from March 30th through April 3rd, and that is parent sign-up. Teachers' only responsibility during this period is to help make parents aware that virtual conference sign-up forms are available on the district website. Those forms will close the evening of April 3rd, and I will compile all of the appointments that have been scheduled, and then starts phase two. On Monday, April 5th, check your email. You'll receive an email from me on the morning of Monday, April the 5th. That email will contain 3 pieces of information: the parent and the student names, the 15-minute time slot that they scheduled, and the email address that the parent used to schedule that conference with you. So with those 3 pieces of information, you are going to then schedule your calendar invites. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So I am in Google, and I am logged into my district email account. I know because if I hover over my profile here, it'll tell me that I'm logged into my harvey152.org account. Make sure you are logged into your district account and using your district's Google Calendar. So now that I am logged into Google with my district account and I have the information from the email, which is the students' names, the time slot that they booked, and the email address for the parent, now I'm ready to start with step 2 on the virtual PT conference cheat sheet, which is going to Google Calendar. To do that, go up here to the Rubik's Cube and click on Calendar. Some suggestions for when you get your calendar open. If you have a lot going on in your calendar, if it's busy, go ahead and uncheck the calendars over here on the left-hand side that you are not using currently, and only leave the calendar with your name, your personal calendar. Leave that one active, but uncheck the other ones. This doesn't delete or remove any information. It just hides it from your view so it looks less cluttered and you're able to stay more organized and focus on creating these appointments. So you've got just that top calendar checked. Now you want to make sure you are in the correct month. The virtual parent-teacher conferences will be on Wednesday, April the 8th, 2020. So make sure you are in the April 2020 calendar month, and you want to make sure that any conferences that you schedule are on Wednesday the 8th. One other tip I have for you when you are scheduling all these conferences on the same day is switch from this view, which shows you the whole month of April. Go up here to where it says month and just click on day. And that way you've got a whole screen that's focused on just the one day, and it'll make it easier for you to book multiple appointments. Just keep in mind that if you go to that day, it sends us to April the 1st. You don't want April the 1st. You need to make sure that you are on April the 8th. So make sure before you schedule any appointments, make sure you've got that date correct. Wednesday the 8th, April 2020. All right, so now that we've got all of that set up, we are ready to schedule our appointment. Let's say that on the list that I sent you, your first appointment is at 12 o'clock. I'm going to click near around 12 p.m. noon. And straight away, I'm just going to click more options. This is step 5 if you're following on the cheat sheet. Click more options. I'm going to give this a descriptive title. And the reason you want to be descriptive in your subject here is that when you send the email to the parent, the invitation, this is what the subject of that invitation email is going to say. So you want to make sure that they know, okay, this is a parent-teacher conference invitation with this teacher. So you want to be descriptive in that title. Now, next step, which is step 7, if you are following along with the cheat sheet, it is to add our time. Now, because I clicked near 12 o'clock noon on the Google Calendar, Google guessed correctly that I wanted to start this appointment at 12 noon. Perfect. Be careful that you check that because Google doesn't always guess that correctly. Make sure that that start time is the time that you want that conference to begin. In this case, it is 12 noon, so I'm going to leave that. But it also defaults to set your appointments, your events to 1 hour. And I don't think you want to have an hour-long conference. So make sure that you choose just the 15-minute increment that we have for these parent-teacher conferences. And in fact, if you have two conferences back to back, you've got a conference at 12 and you've got another at 12:15, you may even want to edit that down just a little further and make that, say, a 12-minute conference so that you've got a couple minutes to exit that first conference and jump into the second one without being late. So now I've got my parent-teacher conference with Marcus Smith's parent starting at noon and ending at 12:12. And that is, of course, on April 8th, 2020. Always give that a double check as well. All right, I am on to the next step, step 8, which is to add a description. Now, if you've added a good descriptive title up here, this step is optional. You don't actually need to do this, but I'm just going to copy and paste that subject line into my description down there as well. But once again, that's optional as long as you entered a good descriptive title up here. And so now I'm going to move on to step 9, which is important, and that is adding guests. And the guests in this case will be the parent with this with whom you will be having this conference. So this could be, this was Marcus. Let's say this is right, and I write this because I want you to see and just remember that you're going to be getting lots of different kinds of email addresses, right? It's not just going to be first initial and last name, and it's not going to be at harvey152.org. You're going to be using the parents' personal emails. So you just want to be careful that you are copying them exactly as they provided them to you, because this is where that invitation is going to be sent, and so it needs to be accurate, otherwise they will not receive that invitation. Now, all that is left to do at this point, and this is step 10 if you're following along on the cheat sheet, is click this blue save button up here at the top. Notice I didn't do anything like add conferencing. I didn't do anything there. I'm just going to click save. And notice that automatically, by default, it's going to add a Hangouts Meet conference to this invitation. So you do not need to add that manually. All you need to do is make sure that you send an invitation email to your guests. In this case, it's the parents. So you need to make sure that they get an email inviting them to this conference, because it is that invitation email that is going to contain their link to this Google Hangouts Meet conference. So you must make sure that you click send on this. So I click send, and now I can see my conference is scheduled with Marcus Smith's parent for noon. And if I click on that, right, I have my time scheduled 12 to 12:12, and I've got my link that will take me directly to that conference when it is time for me to have the conference with that parent. Keep in mind that this parent is going to receive an email, and they may RSVP. So you may get an RSVP from them that says, yes, they're going to attend, but it's not a requirement for them to do that. So even if they don't send you that RSVP back, they still just need to go into their email and click on that link to go into your conference. So I guess what I'm saying here is, don't assume that a parent isn't going to show up to the conference just because they didn't RSVP yes specifically, because they're not required to do that in order to attend the meeting. Now, just for good measure, I want to go through that process one more time, a bit more quickly with a little less commentary. So I'm going to book my next appointment from the list that I was given. I'm going to click here. It's about, let's say, 1:30. I'm going to click more options. I'm going to give it a descriptive title. This is April 8th, 2020. Let's make this one at 1:45. So I can just select 1:45 as my start time. Of course, I don't want an hour. Select, how about 1:57 as the end time. April 8th, perfect. I'm going to copy and paste that to the description, even though that's optional. I'm going to make sure that I carefully copy the email address of the parent that I was given. I'm going to double check that email to make sure that that's the email that the parent provided. And once I'm certain it is, I'm going to go ahead and click save. And then I'm going to make sure I see that it added my Hangouts link. Perfect. And I'm going to click send. And now I've got my appointment with Janet's mom and with Marcus's parent as well. The last thing that I want to add is that if you need to edit any of your appointments for any reason, you can just go into your calendar on April 8th and select the correct appointment that you want to edit and click on it and go up here to the pencil to edit event. And then you're able to edit that appointment. For example, if you learn that the parent needs a translator and you didn't add that translator on your initial invitation, go ahead and add that new guest. So let's say, I don't know if Ms. Delgado will be doing translating, but I'll just add, as an example, I'll just add any new guests that I want, and that could be a translator, that could be an additional parent that wants to join, that could be an additional teacher that wants to join. Just go ahead and add those new guests and make sure that you click save. And when it asks if you would like the invitation emails to new guests, of course, please make sure you click send so that those new guests get the email invitation with the Google Hangouts Meet link in it. So do click send. All right, and finally, some important tips. This is a first for most of us, so test it out first. Schedule a mock conference. Could be with a friend, a colleague, family member. Don't let the conference with a parent be your first time that you've ever used these tools. So anybody with an email address, make an appointment for a conference, send them an invitation, check that they can access the Hangouts Meet conference by the link that you send them, and have a mock conference just to be able to work out some of the kinks and make sure that you know where the tools are. Second tip is, if you're using a laptop, make sure that it is charged in advance, or better yet, plugged in during the conferences. Next tip is minimize interference with the conference by keeping your phone or other electronic devices away from the computer. The incoming phone calls and text messages do generate interference with these conference calls, so best keep them and any other electronic devices that aren't required away from the computer during conferences to minimize that interference. Next tip, background noise, such as a television. These are easily picked up on these video conferences, so try to find as quiet a place as possible to conduct your conferences. Next tip is try to locate yourself, if you're using Wi-Fi at home, at a place in your home nearest to your internet connection. So if you have your router, your modem is upstairs, it is best not to be down in the basement if that is possible. Closer to your modem router is best. And then, of course, be aware of your background and dress. Keep it professional. All you need to do is Google video conference work from home fails to get a general idea of what I mean by this. So keep it professional. That is it for virtual parent-teacher conferences. As always, you can contact me, kmix@harvey152.org, with any questions that you have.